Have you ever found yourself falling for someone who just doesn't show up for you? They might be charming, intense, exciting in the beginning, but as soon as you start needing more, they pull away. They shut down when things get real. They don't talk about their feelings, or they make you feel needy for having any. And even when you know it's not working, you still feel hooked. So why does this happen? Why are so many of us drawn to partners who can't or won't emotionally connect? Let's talk about it. Hi, I'm Morgan Bougourd, a couples and sex therapist at the Center for Intimacy, Connection, and Change, CICC for short. At CICC, we work with individuals and couples who want more from their relationships, more connection, more clarity, more honesty. One of the most common patterns we see, especially in people who have done a lot of therapy and self-reflection, is getting stuck in relationships with emotionally unavailable partners. If that's you, you're not broken, you're not doomed, but it is worth understanding where this comes from and how to start making different choices. What does emotionally unavailable even mean? Let's define it, because it is a term that gets thrown around a lot. An emotionally unavailable person isn't just someone who doesn't cry or journal. We're talking about people who can't or won't engage with emotions in real, vulnerable ways. They might avoid conflict at all costs. They might shut down when you bring up something hard. They might change the subject, get defensive, or make you feel like your needs are too much. There's often a push-pull dynamic. Intimacy followed by withdrawal, attention, then distance. You might be feeling like you're constantly trying to earn closeness, or that the relationship is always on their terms. And the hardest part, you will start to believe that you are the problem. You might be asking yourself, why am I pulled towards people who are never there for me when I need them the most? And why do we find ourselves drawn to emotionally unavailable people in the first place? It's rarely just about the other person. It's about the dynamic, the push and the pull that feels familiar, even if it's painful. If you grew up in a home where love felt inconsistent or where emotional needs were minimized, you might have learned to work extra hard for that connection. You may have internalized the belief that love has to be earned, that being low maintenance makes you more lovable. And so when someone shows up distant, distracted, or avoidant, something in you recognizes that rhythm. It feels familiar, and sometimes familiar feels like chemistry. But what really is the root cause of emotional unavailability? If we flip the lens for just a minute and ask, where does emotional unavailability come from? You'll find that most people who struggle with intimacy are not trying to hurt you. They've just learned to protect themselves from vulnerability very well. That protection might come from trauma. It might come from families where emotions were unsafe, ignored, or ridiculed. They may have never learned how to regulate or express emotion, so they cope by shutting down. Now, that doesn't excuse harmful behavior, but it does help us understand that emotional unavailability is often a defense, not an identity. And here's the key. You can have empathy for someone's wounds without abandoning your own needs in the process. So what are some signs that you're in a relationship with someone who is emotionally unavailable? It's not always obvious at first. This type of unavailability doesn't show up on the first date. It reveals itself slowly when things start to deepen. So what are some signs you could look for? Well, they might change the subject or withdraw when conversations get emotional. They avoid defining the relationship even after significant time together. You may feel like you are too much for asking for closeness or reassurance, and they might only show affection when it's convenient, not when you're upset or vulnerable. You often feel anxious, unsure, or alone, even when you're technically, physically together. If this feels familiar, take a breath. You're not overreacting, and you are not asking for too much. You are asking for the real thing, connection, which is a healthy human need. So, are emotionally unavailable people toxic? Well, that's a tricky one. The word toxic gets used a lot. But emotional unavailability isn't always malicious. Sometimes it is the result of fear, unhealed trauma, or maybe just emotional immaturity. But here's the real question to ask yourself. Is the relationship making you feel seen, heard, safe, and valued? Or is it keeping you in a loop of self-doubt, emotional hunger, and confusion? You don't have to diagnose someone as toxic to decide that a relationship isn't right for you. You just have to honor what your body and heart are already telling you. If a relationship repeatedly leaves you feeling small, anxious, and unseen, it's okay to choose something different. But what do you do if you're stuck in this pattern? And if you find yourself attracted to emotionally unavailable people over and over? I want you to know it is not about shame. It is about understanding the pattern by asking yourself, what does emotional distance feel like in my body? When did I first learn to equate love with pursuit or performance? What would it feel like to be in a relationship that's steady, secure, and mutual? Sometimes that kind of relationship feels boring at first because it's unfamiliar. But unfamiliar doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means it's something new. Now, therapy can help you untangle those attachment patterns, understand your own emotional blueprint, and start building relationships that feel like a home, not high-stakes emotional gymnastics. So if you're feeling stuck in this cycle, if you're tired of being the one who always reaches, always initiates, always tries harder, you don't have to stay in that role. You deserve connection that doesn't come at a cost of your emotional safety. You deserve a free love. You deserve to be met with honesty, with presence, and with care. At CICC, we help individuals and couples break painful patterns, explore their attachment histories, and build relationships rooted in clarity, trust, and mutual emotional availability. If you're ready to understand why this keeps happening and how to move towards something different, visit centericc.com to schedule a free 15-minute consultation. We're here when you're ready.